Sometimes we all feel a little rough. Maybe you've just lost your joy and have no idea how to get it back. Maybe you're feeling bombarded with anxious thoughts and worries that seem to linger in your mind. Do you ever find yourself grieving with sadness and feel like there's no way out? Or maybe you're afraid of the future and all of the chaos surrounding you. We're all full of emotions, but the question is, what can we do about it? Mixed emotions, how to deal with what we feel.
Well, good morning, everybody. I want you to think about something as we go into today. If I were to hand you a piece of paper today and a pen, and I were to say, I want you to write out your feelings, whatever's going on in your life, to God, what would you write? Where would you start? What's been going on in your life that you would automatically want to let God know what's happening? So I want you to think about that for the next few moments. I know some of y'all could fill up a whole page or a whole notebook in a few minutes, right? Like, you're really good at expressing your feelings. Like, that would be no problem for you. Others of you would write a few things, but if you're honest, they weren't really like all your feelings. They were just kind of a piece of the puzzle, but not everything, because maybe you have a hard time sharing or being honest about what's really going on inside. And let's be real, some of y'all wouldn't write nothing, because that's the last thing that you would ever want to do, right? Is to write out feelings. Like, I don't even want to process my feelings. I just pretend them away, right? So I want you to think about that, and then I want you to think about why. Why would you do that? Why would some of you write a lot? Why would some of you write nothing? And I want you to begin to process that as we go into our time together, because we're going to jump right into a passage of Scripture today found in the Old Testament by a guy named David. It's written in about halfway in the middle of our Bible in the book of Psalm. And in this book is a collection of poetry, of feelings, of emotions. And some of y'all are like, great, right? We got to talk about our feelings today. It's not that, because David, what I love about David is David's just a real dude. Like, he is so good at just kind of letting it rip about how he's feeling, what's going on. And I want you to listen to what David shares in this. And what's great, not only that, this summer we're actually going to do like a deep dive into this book of the Bible, but I want you just to hear for a moment, if I gave that assignment to David, here's what David would have wrote to God. Here's what he would have shared. And then I want you to compare that to what you may have written or what you may have shared with God. And so here's David. He's writing this. He's not having a great time. He's very emotionally driven, sharing very honest feelings with God. And at this point, he's got enemies all against him. In the Bible, we're seeing David's story from a very young age to becoming king. And then he's facing all of these issues, and life kind of hits him. And here's what David begins to share with God. Let's read this piece of passage together, the first part of it. It says, "Be gracious to me, Lord." This is Psalm 31, 9 through 13. "Be gracious to me, Lord, because I'm in distress. My eyes, they're worn out from frustration, my whole being as well. Indeed, my life is consumed with grief, and my years with groaning. My strength has failed because of my iniquity, and my bones waste away. I'm ridiculed by all my adversaries and even my neighbors. I'm dreaded by my acquaintances. Those who see me in the street run from me. I'm forgotten, gone from memory like a dead person, like broken pottery. I've heard the gossip of many. Terror is on every side." Now, aren't you glad you came to church to hear that encouraging piece of Scripture, right? I mean, think about that. What did you learn from church today? Well, I learned that there's terror on every side and my bones are wasting away, right? Like, that's not the encouraging piece of passage that you came this Memorial Day to experience here at church. But this is only the beginning of this passage. We're going to continue the rest of it and hear where David lands. But I wanted you to hear his real, raw emotions because of the topic and where we're going today. So before we get there, let me just say welcome. My name is Trey. I'm one of the pastors here at Atlee. And if this is especially your first time with us, I especially want to welcome you. And I know how awkward and weird it can be to walk into a church for the first time. So thanks for entrusting us with your church experience today, whether you're here in Mechanicsville, Scottsville, or watching online. I hope today that you learned something or gleaned something from our time together that you can take back in your life and in your faith while you're here with us. If you haven't been here with us over the last few weeks, we've been walking through the Bible, looking at what it has to say about our primary real emotions that we experience on an everyday basis. We've looked at emotions like anxiety, anger, envy, all these things. So if you missed any of those, make sure to go back on demand. You can find that on our app or on our website if any of those kind of pique your interest and you want to check those out. And also, we can only cover a certain amount of these emotions during our quick time here together at church. And so I've put together some resources. If you haven't checked these out, if you're here in Mechanicsville, they're out on the green wall out there or near that. You can see some of these books for sale. One of them, Where God When It Hurts. If you're going through something, man, this is a great one as far as identifying spiritually where things may be. Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. Great resource I studied for this series. And we also had this one by Craig Groeschel called Winning the War in Your Mind. And there's also one of these available for teenagers as well. So make sure, take a look at those. If any of these emotions you want to deep dive into more, we have resources for you out there to check those out or find those on Amazon. But today, the emotion we're going to jump into isn't probably the most popular one for anybody to study because it's the one that we would like to wish away or wish it didn't exist. And the emotion that we're going to be talking about today is the emotion sadness. Now, does anybody enjoy talking about their sadness? Okay, exactly. There's no hands going up because this isn't a fun topic. This isn't even a fun topic for a speaker to talk about because I'm like you. I don't want to talk about sadness. I don't want sadness to enter my life or be anywhere near me. But we've all had those days, right, where we've had to muster up joy or happiness because deep down we just knew something was off. Or maybe things have happened in our lives that caused us to feel sad. And there's all kind of levels of sad, right? There's the sad where maybe your team lost and you were really hoping they won, or the sadness where you maybe like stepped in dog poop with your favorite pair of shoes and you had to throw them away, right? There's that kind of sadness that we've dealt with. But then there's like the severity of sadness where maybe you've lost somebody that you love. And around that anniversary every year of losing them, you get those feelings that come back, right, of sadness. Or maybe for you, something just did not work out the way you thought it would. Or maybe for you, it's something in life you thought was so important and now it's gone. And all of us have had these moments of sadness that we've had to deal with. And we've all dealt with them in different ways. But today, I want us to take a look at what the emotion of sadness really is and how the Bible teaches us to deal with this emotion when we feel it. And so first, let's look at really what is sadness, because like I said, there's such a severity difference in sadness that all of us have experienced in some level, shape, or form. And so the definition that I found that I really enjoyed about sadness this week is that sadness is an emotional state characterized by feelings of unhappiness and low mood. And then it continued by saying this: it's considered one of the basic human emotions, and it's a normal response to situations that are upsetting, painful, or even disappointing. And then the definition continued by saying this: sometimes these feelings can feel more intense, while in other cases they may be fairly mild. So there's this range of sadness that we can feel. It's when things happen unexpected or disappointing that lead us to feeling this feeling that something's just not right. And there's this grievance that takes place. And while we think sadness isn't an emotion that we want to experience or we want to wish it away, sadness, while it's never fun to experience or go through, isn't always a bad emotion to feel. It's one of those feelings for us that we can use to express the way that we don't know how to share. Sadness is a way for our lives to process things that are hard. And I know for me, I've experienced all levels of sadness, but probably the most intense level of sadness is when I lost my grandfather. Up until that point, I hadn't experienced much loss in my life, but in my world, my grandfather was like one of my heroes. And I remember when he passed, it was one of those things. I remember my wife and me and my brother, we had to like do this song at his funeral, and it took every bit of me to get up and to do that song with my brother and my wife. And it was, the sadness took over. And for me, I didn't realize how much that would affect me, how much he meant to me. But it's through those tears and through the heartache of losing somebody, sadness comes about because we realize how much somebody meant to us or how much something meant to us. And so sadness shows us the love that's being expressed towards something or someone that we love. And so for us, what are we supposed to do when these types of sadness come into our lives? How do we deal with them when they happen to us? And what are some things that we need to remember about God in the midst of life's toughest moments? And so what I want us to do is continue that passage that we started with David. Like I said, he's getting real, sharing these emotions. He's saying, I don't know what to do with my life. Things are really hard. And I want us to look at what do we do in those moments? And how is God there for us in those moments as well? And so here's a few thoughts from this passage today that I hope helps all of us deal with sadness, no matter what level we may experience it or are experiencing it today. The first thing is that we see David do in this passage is we need to learn to share our sadness, And that can be one of the hardest things to do because none of us like to look weak. None of us like to be sad, but some of the greatest moments in our lives can come from when we share our sadness because it's not a bad thing for us to experience. We see David share these feelings with God, sharing how he feels. And the good thing was that was okay. Like God could handle those emotions. He wasn't turned off by them. He wasn't like David figured out for yourself. He knew that he could come to God and come to other people about what he was feeling. And it's important for us to know how important it is to share what we're feeling. But for so many of us, that seems weak. That seems unimportant. That seems like a waste of time. Or sometimes we even seem like a burden to somebody else sharing those things. And we're like, you know what? No one needs to hear that. I'll keep bottling up. I'll just keep holding on to it. But the problem is the more we hold on to it, the worse that those feelings get. We even see moments in the New Testament of the Bible where Jesus himself, the Son of God, finds himself sad. And so if the Son of God, God expressed in human form with Jesus, can get sad, we should learn from that and go, it's important for us to admit those moments as well. One example in John 11:35, it's probably the shortest passage in the Bible. It says that Jesus wept. And it doesn't give us a lot of context about it, only that he had just lost his friend Lazarus and gotten this news and then was going to see him. Another example, as Jesus approached Jerusalem and saw the city, it said that he wept over it, that there was this sadness that he felt as he was about to experience all that he was going to go through for you and me. This is Jesus coming to know all the emotions that he was about to experience as well. These show us the real, raw emotions of God in human flesh. And if people saw Jesus get sad, then we should understand that it's okay for us to get sad too. And sometimes when we're experiencing sadness, we quickly want to get over it, right? We want to dismiss it, move on, get it out of the way, bring back the joy, bring back the happiness. I don't want this emotion. But the more that we try to hide it, the more that we try to cover it up, it leads us down destructive paths. I mean, think about the last time you were sad. I mean, like really sad. How did you deal with it? I know for a lot of people, it can lead them to finding fulfillment in things that they were never supposed to do with their lives. Maybe find fulfillment in somebody else that was never meant to carry that sadness for that other person, like you just wanted a quick fix. Or maybe for somebody, it's just, I'm just gonna fake happiness, so I'm just gonna put up a wall to everybody else, and everyone's like, what's going on? Are you okay? I'm fine, I'm good. and you just move on, dismiss everybody, and you become so isolated that nobody could come into your life anymore. Or maybe for you, it was even more destructive. It led you to addictions. It led you to drinking. It led you to hiding. It led you to moving away from everybody else. How have you dealt with it? Because the problem is, if we don't deal with our sadness, what happens, our sadness ends up dealing with us. And sometimes that's not a good thing. We look for things to hide from sadness instead of allowing our lives to fully process sadness. One of these popular therapists and psychologists, she's way smarter than I will ever be, a lot of letters and stuff before her name. Her name is Carolyn Leaf. I've read a bunch of her books getting ready for this series. Here's one thing that she shared. I love this. She said, remember, never suppress feelings. Acknowledge them, embrace them, and deal with them. Don't try to suppress them or tuck them away in a corner, because the problem is they're going to rear their ugly head somehow. You and I should acknowledge them. We should speak them, share them whenever we're able to finally know what we're feeling. And then we should embrace them. Don't try to push them away, and actually deal with them when they come into our lives. See, a lot of our sadness comes during big times of grief. Grieving somebody we lost, or some bad news, or unfortunate circumstance. And listen, we got to remember that even in those toughest moments, just like David, that God is there with us in the midst of those. And so I saw this picture this week that I think helps us reframe what sadness truly is in our lives. So take a look at this picture real quick. They're going to show it on the back wall. Here's some things, reasons why it's okay to feel sad. Because for us, our emotions can get stronger. For us, it's not showing weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. We shouldn't be afraid to admit that we're struggling. It can cause us to assess how we really feel. And because no one should be ashamed to actually share what's going on. And I hope, especially for the men in here today, that you realize that it is okay to share those things. It is not a weakness thing. It's actually strength. And for all of us to realize that when we share those emotions, when we can get real about our sadness, is when we can truly be restored with it and for it. And so, let's continue in our Bible reading. Let me just say, David begins to get a little more joyful in the next few passages, so you don't have to worry about it being really depressing. Here's the turn David takes, and I want us to listen to this as we talk about the next thing that we should do. So we should share our sadness whenever it comes on us. Share it. Find a safe place to go to. And then let's look at what David shares next. As we continue, Psalm 31, this is verse 14 through 20. He continues by saying this, but I trust. Everybody say trust. This is a hard part for us here. But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. He declares this about God over his situation. He said, the course of my life is in your power. Rescue me from the power of my enemies and from my persecutors. Make your face shine upon your servant. Save me by your faithful love. Lord, do not let me be disgraced when I call on you. Let the wicked be disgraced and let them be quiet in Sheol. Let lying lips that arrogantly speak against the righteous and proud contempt be silenced. How great is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you. In the presence of everyone, you have acted for those who take refuge in you. You hide them in your protection of your presence. You conceal them in a shelter from human schemes and from quarrelsome tongues. And so there's a lot in this passage. I wish we had all day to kind of break this down and nerd out on this passage for a little while. But let me just say this. There's a big theme that breaks in every piece of this passage when David begins to speak this. Number two, is that he finds comfort in his sadness. And you and I, we can lean into God and our relationship with him to find comfort in our sadness. That God is able, we can go to him, and that he is there for us. He keeps us grounded in our faith when we experience sadness and grief. It's in him that we are able to find a source of strength. I don't know about you, but whenever I do face sadness, and probably whenever you face sadness, you slow down a little bit, don't you? You take an inventory. You're like, what is going on with me? You're not as worried about everything external because you're more focused on what's going on internal. And it allows you to showcase what's most important. It also shows us that we're not invincible and that everything is in our control. And so during these times, it can help us rely on God more than ever when we truly slow down to realize that he is there for us and we can find comfort in him. And I think most people actually discover a relationship with God when things aren't going well, because it's in that moment we realize we don't have it all together. Like, I can't fix myself in these moments. I need something bigger than me to deal with these things in life. And I think that's when we're more open to experiencing God in our lives than ever before. We're able to go to him and realize we can find a source of strength bigger than ourselves. I want us for a moment just to realize that God is trustworthy. And David declares that over his life and his situation. When we try to find comfort in other things, we realize they're only temporary, right? Like, you can try to go out and do that, or you could try that thing, but normally we end up in a deeper place of sadness. Those things just kind of are a Band-Aid for us to get through whatever we're going through. But we hear this passage that God is being there for us. He's a source of strength, of comfort, of peace. He's reliable. And so real quick, I want to go back. Let's look at what David declares about God in the midst of his sadness. And hopefully it helps us understand who God is in the midst of things when life isn't that great. Here's what he says. He says, God, I trust in you. And so we learn in these moments where things are hard that God can be trusted, even when we don't understand what's happening. The next thing we realize about God that David shares is, save me by your faithful love. That God is faithful. He's there for us. He remains true and steadfast when things are unpredictable. Next thing, he says, how great is your goodness? And I think this is the hardest one for us, because we're like, this situation isn't good, everything else isn't good, life isn't good. How can God then be good? But that's not who God is. God is good. And we get to see how great his goodness is, even when life isn't good. And the last thing that we see David share is that he takes refuge in God. He takes refuge in him. He's a source of protection and peace. And so when you're facing sadness, when you're looking for comfort, you share those things out loud, maybe with God or somebody else. I hope then you can look to God like David did to find these things true for your life as well. That you can trust God, that he's faithful, that he's good, and that you can take refuge in him when things aren't well. All of these things bring us comfort in God, knowing in our darkest times that he's there for us. And so you can find comfort, real comfort, that lasts in God because of your relationship with him. And then lastly, David kind of continues his grievances, but also his declarations about who God is in this last piece of this passage of Psalm 31. Let's continue this, verse 20 through 24. He says this, you hide them in the protection of your presence. You conceal them in a shelter from human schemes, from quarrelsome tongues. And then he says this, blessed be the Lord. And he continues, for he has wondrously shown his faithful love to me. In a city under siege, in my alarm, I said, I'm cut off from your sight. But you heard the sound of my pleading when I cried to you for help. Love the Lord, all his faithful ones. The Lord protects the loyal and fully repays the arrogant. Be strong. Let your heart be courageous, all who put your hope in the Lord. And so lastly, what can we glean from David's sadness to help us in the midst of our sadness? Is number 3, we can find help in our sadness. So not only do we share our sadness, do we find comfort, we also find help in our sadness to begin to get to a better place. He said, I cried out to God. I need help. And he found God there, and he found the courage and the hope to face another day. See, there are always places to go to get the help you need. The thing that happens when we get in these bad places, we feel like we're the only ones going through it, or there's no other resources, or here I am stuck by myself. What am I going to do? God, where are you? And the cool thing is that you and I can realize that there is hope. There is help. And that's where God comes in. And not only he provides help, he gives us the help of other people as a resource for us as well. One of the phrases that I love about our church, that we use it here all the time, especially when we're talking about our small groups, is this idea that we want to do life together. And the reason we keep using that phrase is because we want every single person to know that you are not alone. You're not alone in what you're facing. That's why we have the church, this group of people, all of us together, walking through all that we're walking through in life to be a resource for each other, that you don't have to face what you're facing by yourself. God is there for you, and so are other people. And it's also important for you if things are going good, like if you're not sad, things, up and to the right. The cool thing about our relationship with God is he puts people into our lives to begin to help. And so our lives were never just meant to be serving ourselves. We're supposed to constantly be on the lookout for other people to say, hey, how can I help? Hey, I noticed that you're not yourself today. What's going on? Hey, I saw that you missed work a few times last week. Is everything okay? Hey, I noticed that things are a little off. Can I just take you to coffee? Can you shoot that person a text, give them a call, whatever it may be? You and I are supposed to be the light of the world. And sometimes I think that we just look at the dark world and we're like, someone else will figure that out. But the cool thing is that every single one of us has a part to play in showing love and empathy and compassion to a dark world around us, to be the light of Jesus to other people. And so I hope as you open your eyes a little bit, begin to see people for what's really going on. And maybe you can be a source of help and comfort to them, and you didn't even know it. And lastly, there are some practical things that you and I can do when we're facing sadness, when sadness hits. We talked about joy a few weeks ago and the things that bring us joy. And a lot of times what we shared in that week is there are things that bring us joy. We just don't take enough time to actually add those things into our lives. There are things like, for us, if we're feeling sadness, like some of us taking a walk helps us reset our minds. Maybe for some of us, it's grabbing a good cup of coffee and sitting in silence for a little bit. Maybe for you, it's finding a healthy group of people, like a small group here at Atlee, or a small group of people you trust that you can share those things with. Maybe for you, it's doing something out of your normal routine, a change of scenery. Maybe it's cleaning up a space. Maybe it's checking something off your to-do list, whatever that may be. Find something that begins to get you off of the focus of sadness and onto something that will bring you some joy. It reminds me of an old song by Toby Keith. I'm a huge country music person. I remember this song. It's called My List. And I want you to listen to the lyrics of this song. Here's the things that he enjoyed doing in his life to bring him joy in this song. He says, go for a walk, say a little prayer. I would sing it, but I would offend all of you. So I'm just going to talk it out. All right. Go for a walk, say a little prayer, take a little breath of mountain air, put on my glove, play some catch. It's time that I make time for that. Wade the shore, cast a line, look up an old friend of mine, sit on the porch, give my girl a kiss, start living. That's the next thing on my list. And I love this song because we're like, yeah, let's go do the things that we love doing. Those are the things that bring us joy. But here's the thing that we talked about during that week. Isn't it funny that the things that we know could get us to a better place or bring us joy the most is that we normally never make the time for it? And I love this song because it reminds us of that. One day I'll make time for that. One day I'll get around to that. And what happens is we bottle up these emotions, we stay stuck in our sadness, and we never find hope. And the truth is, you and I, we have so many resources around us to get the help that we need. And I hope this week that we would actually take time for those things. Go for the walk. Go hang out with the people that you need to hang out with. Maybe reach out to a professional and talk if you're stuck in a place that you can't get out of. All of those things are okay. They're resources for us to utilize to help us in the midst of our sadness. But I know, just like you know, that sadness can be an uphill battle. And some of us may be more intense than others. And so today, as we end our service, I wanted to give you a moment just to process all that we've talked about, but also to hear what it was like for somebody else to go through their sadness. And we have a good friend, Tammy, here at church, and she emails Jeff and I and keeps an update of what's going on in her life. And recently, in the beginning of this year, she faced some real heartache, some real trouble that she was going through. And I asked her today if she would be willing to share her story with you all in hopes that maybe it'll help you in what you're facing as well. And then also the band has a song they're going to play. This has become a very popular song because I think of how real it is. And so I just want you to take the next few moments, breathe in for a moment, think about what you're going through, and see how God can meet you in the midst of your sadness today. Take a look at this.
My name's Tammy Oslins. I think I've been coming to Atlee now about 3 years. I have a family of my mom, 4 brothers, and I'm a twin. We're a very close family. My dad has passed away. It's already been 8 years. That time goes by real fast. But yeah, we're just a very close family. You know, for me, how have I dealt with depression, or when I was diagnosed with depression? Actually, it was when I was in high school. My senior year, I was very outgoing. I was actually voted the class clown for my class. And then all of a sudden, I just, out of nowhere, I just didn't want to get up in the mornings. I wasn't showering. I wasn't eating. But then at the same time, my mother would say, I would literally go to the bathroom and she would say, can the real Tammy come back? Because I would come out a different person. There was just rage that I had, and I don't know where it came from. And then finally, I did talk to my parents about it, and I went to the doctor. And actually, ironically, it's not just depression I try to manage and cope with, but I was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I have also what they call seasonal affective disorder, and this year it hit me hard. And that's definitely one thing I want people to understand, is there's no on and off button. I can't control it. So January I was struggling, and then February probably was my worst month. I mean, I was just crying almost every day. I was having suicidal thoughts. At one point, I had the bottles out, and I remember, crying and asking God to help me, and then my mom called. And I really believe that was God's way of helping me, because as soon as I talked to her, that thought went away. It's something I have to fight, and something I have to fight through, but this time around, the battle almost won. When I would get depressed, I would drink a lot of alcohol. Thank goodness I stopped doing that, but I also would go to self-harm. So that was another battle I had to fight with the depression this time around, was, do I self-harm? Now I'm happy to say I didn't, but it's a beast. You're definitely going to battle, just like soldiers would go to war. Well, this is kind of the war of my mind, and it was a tough one this time around. My faith has always been there, but through these times, I get frustrated with God, because there's a part in The Chosen, and it's Simon, and he's on the boat, and he's calling out to God, and then God comes across the water, and then Simon, I kind of felt like the way Simon did. I'm praying to God, I'm asking for help, but I feel like he's not answering, because I'm still struggling. And then I would hear of my friends, all these good things coming their way, and I was like, what did I do? Why are you not helping me? I have to remember, because God comes and he says, just keep your eyes on me. Keep your eyes on me. And that's what I have to do. I know God has me, because I just know that I would never have survived my attempt if he didn't. And just like Simon, when he went under that water, that phone call, when my mom called, I felt like Simon. I was under the water, and I was literally about done. And I feel like that was God's hand bringing me up off the water, out of that water, when she made that phone call. And I have kept my eyes on him since then. And I always have. It's just I have to now learn that he is always with me. I'm the one that has to feel it and be able to accept that he's not going to let me go. God knows that I will be able to handle that storm. There's a quote that talks about, you're stronger than the storm, and I am.